evening, everybody. Welcome to the Student Town Hall discussion at the University of Minnesota. First, we're going to start off with letting everybody know we are collecting questions. There should be ushers walking through the aisle with boxes. Please, if you have any questions for either a member of Congress, drop those off in the boxes that are walking around, and we're going to collect those and answer a few questions at the end. So we are just letting people file in, and we'll get started. Thank you very much.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
I pledge.
I pledge.
I pledge to form my own opinions
And not rely on pundits, politicians, or celebrities.
I pledge to think for myself.
To not rely on the media for facts.
I pledge to respect life.
To respect liberty.
To respect the happiness of others.
I pledge to defend the individual.
To be kind and respectful to others.
To lead by example.
I pledge to give voluntarily
To private charities. I pledge to work for the benefit of the world because I want to, not because I have to.
Because I care and I want to make a difference.
I pledge to visit the National Archives and Arlington Cemetery and remember what this country is supposed to be about.
I pledge to oppose compulsory service.
To oppose slavery.
To recognize the difference between voluntary action and government force.
I pledge to show the world that the real peace movement is the liberty movement.
I pledge to resist the draft.
I pledge to defend liberty, starting at home.
I pledge to defend my home at home, not abroad.
I pledge to fight for a foreign policy that puts America first.
I pledge to defend the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic.
I don't own a firearm, but I pledge to defend the right for you to own a firearm.
I pledge to hang on to my Second Amendment rights until they pry them out of my cold, dead hands.
I pledge to be an advocate of the 10th Amendment and respect state sovereignty.
To always stand up against the legislation of morality.
To resist show trials and fight for habeas corpus.
To oppose all new legislation that doesn't severely slash the budget or taxes.
I pledge to inform Congress that just like me, they do not have an unlimited budget.
I pledge to not allow unelected bureaucrats to run our economy.
I pledge to resist fiat currency.
To expose self-evident truths for all of mankind.
I pledge to defend the natural rights of man with my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. Just like this guy.
I pledge to remember that the price of liberty is responsibility.
I pledge not to let my talents go to waste.
To pursue the American dream and make something of myself.
Without any hindrance or help from the government.
I pledge to support small business and not government institutions.
I pledge to remember that wanting to keep your own money isn't greed, and spending other people's money isn't compassion.
I pledge to never tax you for my personal ambitions.
I pledge to not accept any public money for scientific research.
I pledge to work outside the government, to make the world a better place through voluntary associations, without the threat of violence looming overhead.
I pledge to combine the philosophy of liberty with the virtue of love.
I pledge to never let political differences interfere with the potentials of human friendship.
I pledge eternal hostility against all forms of tyranny over the mind of man.
I pledge to question authority,
I pledge to speak out.
I pledge to never stop learning.
To educate myself about the political process so that I can make a difference.
I pledge to read Human Action by Ludwig von Mises.
I pledge to buy copies of Human Action for all my Marxist friends.
I pledge to read LouRockwell.com every day.
To read more Murray Rothbard.
To learn about fractional reserve banking.
I pledge to remember that nobody can calculate the value of an individual.
I pledge to seek truth.
I pledge to spread the message of liberty throughout the world.
Yo prometo siempre defender mis derechos.
我不会购买任何美国的资产。
I pledge to join the libertarian revolution in Russia.
I pledge to hope and liberty, not a politician.
I pledge to remember that this country doesn't have royalty and we don't need a replacement royal family.
I pledge to limit the government's job description.
I pledge to have faith in my fellow man.
I pledge to defend liberty until the day I die.
Why just pledge? I'll take an oath. I swear by my life and my love of it that I will not live for the sake of another man, nor ask another man to live for mine.
I pledge to spread the message of liberty.
I pledge
I
to
pledge to raise
reject
a
the
family that protects
I
liberty
pledge to
and defends
inform the American people that the government isn't any better. It's all
I pledge to volunteer voluntarily.
To fly a Gadsden flag off my
I pledge to take care of my body. So you don't have to pay.
I pledge to support the poor by promoting
Oppose all wars
I
waged by
pledge
the U.S.
not
government,
to
both foreign and domestic.
I pledge to educate my children.
I pledge to hold my elected officials.
I pledge to live and let live.
Free or
I
die.
pledge to join the revolution.
I pledge to join Young Americans for Liberty.
Good evening once again. My name is Jeff Frazee. I was the National Youth Coordinator for Ron Paul 2008, and I'm the Executive Director of Young Americans for Liberty. Young Americans for Liberty is a continuation of Students for Ron Paul. In less than 8 months, we formed over 500 chapters all across the country in all 50 states, recruited over 26,000 students to the campaign, and it is with this movement that we form Young Americans for Liberty, to continue spreading the constitutional message of life, liberty, and property. Our mission is to train, educate, and mobilize youth activists committed to winning on principle. It is our goal to cast the leaders of tomorrow and reclaim the policies and direction of our government. Our story is similar to another youth movement started in 1964. It was a youth movement for Goldwater. And it was with that campaign that led to another organization called Young Americans for Freedom and provided the spirit and lifeblood of what became the Reagan Revolution. Now, a new revolution is forming, a peaceful revolution based in principle. And it is in principle that we will prevail, because the truth is on our side. With your support and with your help, Young Americans for Liberty is committed to leading the charge. Please take the pledge and join Young Americans for Liberty. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Marianne Stebbins, the state coordinator for Minnesota and the former campaign state director of the Ron Paul campaign here in Minnesota. Marianne.
It was nearly 2 years ago that we were gathered in the same building. It was the night before the precinct caucuses, here with the mere hope and a prayer that our determination would somehow translate into a return, or the beginning of a return, to the constitutional republic established by our founding fathers. It might not have turned out exactly the way we envisioned, but I'll tell you this, those efforts were not in vain. Anything but. And we'll hear some more from Dr. Paul about that. I can tell you here in Minnesota, the sounds of liberty are steadily heard. Candidates are running at all levels on the message of freedom. And it was all because each of you did your part and you didn't give up. There's more yet to come, so stay in the game. Run for office yourself. Stay on your legislators and congressmen. They've heard you, and they talk about you.